Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy examined the battle between Alex Pereira and Makhachev in a recent Weighing In podcast episode. In contrast to someone like Anv, who is renowned for his powerful grappling, Pereira has had plenty of time to hone his skills, Big John stressed. According to John, Pereira would have continued to develop defensively as his MMA career developed, making it more difficult for Anv to rule the wrestling division.
I do think he will try to take him down, but it all comes down to this. Every month that goes by, Josh, I know you give me the same line of you can't teach a grown man to wrestle. Yeah, you really can, especially defensively. Alex has had enough time now, and he's been working on his wrestling, especially the defensive part. He's not going to be easy to take down. He is a big, strong man. He's a large human being. He's good at, he keeps his hands down anyways. He's kind of like the year, he's got his hands down low all the time, which makes it more difficult to get the takedown just off the bat. Fedor used to do it the same way, because if his hands are low, it's easy for him to scoop you up, stop the takedown attempt. And Ankalaev, in the end, he's going to have to work harder for those takedowns. And I don't think in the end he's going to work that hard for him. He'll separate and think that he can do it on his feet, and that's going to be his undoing.
Meb's transactions. According to Vil's coach, defeating Umar Nagamov was simpler than anticipated. When the UFC bantamweight champion fought the unbeaten Nurmagomedov in the octagon, John Wood anticipated a far more difficult challenge. This past weekend, the two combatants faced battle in the co-main event of UFC 311, the promotion's eagerly awaited first pay-per-view event in 2025. The thrilling fight lasted all 5 rounds and was named Fight of the Night. To the delight of his fans, Morab successfully defended his 135-pound title, and Umar, the evil opponent, emerged victorious early on. Despite anticipating a difficult fight from one of Meb's primary trainers at Syndicate MMA, Vil's relentless pace and unrivaled cardio ultimately reversed the tide, ensuring the champion's triumph in the later rounds. Even the champion's team was taken aback by how easily he dominated, as John Wood acknowledged that the victory came more easily than expected. The only thing I can say is that it might have been simpler than anticipated. I really want people to start recognizing that Umar did what I expected him to do, and perhaps he fractured his hand in the first round, but who knows? That's not disrespectful to Nurma. It's just how good Miab is. According to my most recent exam, your hand and lungs are not connected. Therefore, I don't think that had anything to do with your cardio. Besides, who cares? That's what occurs. It's a fight. Finish the quote. After his post-fight interview, Umar's viewpoint has obviously changed. The unbeaten Russian didn't change his mind about challenging the judges' scorecards, and in his most recent remarks he intensified his criticism. Nurmagomedov remained resolute, declaring that he will win a championship. He was unhappy with how the fight turned out and attributed the defeat to his wounds. Max H is called out to leave by Charles Oliveira. In the highly anticipated title fight between Islam Makhachev and Armen Sarikhan at UFC 311, the Bronx had his sights set on Los Angeles last week, waiting to see who would be his next opponent. However, Sarikhan withdrew from the event just hours before due to an injury, leaving Oliva's fellow Brazilian Moano to step in. The future of Makhachev is still unclear, particularly since Dana White stated that Sarukhin will have to prove himself once more before he can reclaim the championship he won over Oliva in April of last year, should the wait for a possible rematch with Makhachev drag on for too long. In a recent UFC interview, the Brazilian fighter Ola stated that he has his sights set on a different previous opponent, that he is excited to face again, making it apparent that a second fight with Sari is not the route he intends to go. Quotation, "We'll have to wait and see when Makhachev wants to return, but I would rather leave it to my managers and concentrate solely on training and spending time with my family. Why not challenge Max Holloway for the BMF title if he only wants to fight in October? I would really like to fight before then." Max may have mentioned a potential rematch when we first met, but there was never a fight because I was injured right at the start. We deserve to have this fight, in my opinion. He has advanced to the position of BMF, the hardest one. That would be enormous since I am a really tough person and have a lot of UFC records. Quotation, when Holloway and Ola initially faced off in 2015, Holloway won by TKO after Oliveira was forced to withdraw due to an unexpected esophageal injury. Following Olivia's thrilling victory over Michael Chandler in November, Holloway expressed interest in defending his BMF title against the Brazilian fan favorite for the first fight on the most recent episode of a Russian MMA podcast, reigniting speculation about a possible rematch. Co-host of NIA TV, Solange, while talking about UFC 311, a close friend of UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev made a shocking revelation about some brewing turmoil within Islam's camp that has been causing waves for years. However, following Islam's convincing victory over Renato Moano, both he and his manager stirred things up by implying a possible champion versus champion bout with Belal Muhammad, the UFC welterweight champion. Naturally, this sparked a lot of conjecture among MMA fans and commentators about whether or not such a big battle might possibly take place. Fans were astonished by this as it was, and Belal seemed to have a close bond with Dastani. Although fighters frequently stressed camaraderie and loyalty, Swan went farther and revealed that ties between Islam and Belal aren't as cordial as they once were. He said the mood in the camp was rocked by a furious confrontation between the two champions. Sulan explained how tensions had increased between the erstwhile buddies and claimed to have discussed the matter directly with Khabib Nurmagomedov. He claimed that a furious verbal altercation between the two champions turned into a physical altercation. Sulan continued by disclosing that Islam and Khabib had now abandoned Belal. Imagine that if the champion is Belal, Islam wishes to face him and advance in weight class. It should be a disaster, wouldn't it? Hold on though, because I have something to tell you. After speaking with Khabib, I would want to share with you. Belal has been totally abandoned by Islam and Khabib. There have been passionate, intense arguments between them as a result of the situation in the camp getting worse. This is serious. It's not just a little argument. I am fully aware of the intense activities that have been taking place behind closed doors. Their aspirations may be causing what previously appeared to be a fraternal bond to crumble. How do you feel about this altercation? Is it possible for Islam to win 2 titles? Comment below. Dana White's recent move up the pound-for-pound rankings made Tom Aspen giggle. In response to Dana's announcement that Islam Makhachev had surpassed Jon Jones as the new pound-for-pound #1, the UFC interim heavyweight champion expressed his opinions. Aspen is mostly focused on securing an uncontested title shot. Having earned his spot, he is adamant about taking on Jones and wants that chance as soon as possible. For years, Aspen feels that this is his time. Dana had always regarded Jones as the best MMA fighter in terms of pound for pound, but after UFC 311 last weekend, White declared that he now thinks Makhachev has earned the title organically. Aspen had strong views about the subject. Quote, "As we all know, Islam Makhachev is the world's #1 pound for pound, and now we're seeing Dana White come out and say that. A lot of nonsense is included in pound for pound. I don't investigate that, but it's amusing that he has switched from Jon Jones to Islam. Islam did exactly what a champion is supposed to do. He went out there and fought whoever was put in front of him. He defeated the opponent the UFC sent him to face, and he is far superior to everyone else in that division. I am a huge fan of Islam Makhachev, so I am thrilled that he will continue to hold the title for a very long time." Later in 2025, Aspen and Jones are scheduled to square off, and the heavyweight title won't be the only thing at stake. Makhachev is now able to engage Aspen in a pound-for-pound discussion. According to the UFC's pound-for-pound rankings, Aspen is currently rated #8. A win over Jones would move him up the ranks considerably. Is Aspen capable of defeating Jon Jones this year? In your opinion? What impact would that have on his standing in terms of weight? Please share your opinion.